Hey, Christina, I can't hear you at all. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Paul. Can you hear me now?
There we go. Now I can hear you. All right.
So that would be why you couldn't hear me. Let me see. Do you see Judy on here? Regular. We got Valerie.
No, I don't. I just see Valerie and whoever's in the room with you.
Hi, Valerie. Can you hear us? Valerie, if you could unmute and just confirm that you can hear us. Valerie, you are muted. If you could unmute. I have Judy's cell phone, so I'm just texting her real quick.
Can you unmute everybody from your end?
Let's see. I can pin. No, it does not appear. Unfortunately, I am not logged in as the manager of the meeting. I'm not the owner of the meeting. Okay, well, we'll just hope that Valerie can hear us and we'll take good notes ourselves if we need to be a backup. So why don't we call the meeting to order at 7:03. We'll do roll call. We have Paul Varga.
Here.
Judy Austin. Not here yet. Keith Lipker.
Present.
Pam Summers.
Here.
Christina Davis. Present. And let's see, 1, 2. Am I missing a regular number? Who am I missing? Oh, Judy.
Or Judy, yeah, I guess she's up there.
Who's missing? Paul and Judy. Me. Oh,
Angie.
and that's right. Angie DeSanto is not present. And she asked that we seat Tim in her place. So Tim Rhodes is present. And Hugh McKenzie is not present. Okay, so Tim, you're going to be seated for Angie per her request.
Okay.
Communications. I did receive an agenda for the Board of Education's meeting that's happening tonight that I forwarded to this group. I think everybody should have seen that just as an FYI, and keep in mind that that's a draft and it's not necessarily what we're going to see when they come and present. There's going to be some changes, I'm sure. But just wanted to keep everybody on the loop on that. I also heard from the auditing firm, King and Associates, yesterday that they will not be done with the audit, so they're not presenting tonight. The message said, we are waiting to hear back about the town and Board of Ed reconciliation to finalize the financials. And I heard from Tracy at on Monday that she was waiting on the reconciliation for town and Board of Ed expenditures and budget reports showing amended line items and actuals. So that was Monday. And so that she obviously didn't get what she needed in time for the audit to be done for today. So
she actually asked for it. What's today? Thursday? She
Tuesday.
either asked for it on Monday or last Friday.
Well, yeah, her email that requesting it was Monday. So I don't know. Seems kind of odd to me that they didn't have, I mean, reconciliation for town and Board of Ed expenditures sounds like they would have that already, don't you think?
One would think.
Okay.
They have asked for things that not that they were given before.
Okay.
So I could probably say something about that when I do my data.
Okay, that'd be great. So that's the big thing, the communication around the audit. The other thing I wanted to bring up is Keith and I were able to join a virtual meeting back in, seems like ages ago, December, with Region 19. It was like a kind of a roundtable, just
Mhm.
have members of the contributing boards of finance share what their outlook was. And then they had two state, or they had a Tammy Nuccio, who's the state, she's a state rep for the Willington Vernon district area. And then Haddad is the Mansfield's representative. He was on the meeting as well. So they were sort of sharing some perspective on the state budget. As I recall, what they shared was we are in year 2 of a 2-year budget. So in theory, the funding that we were promised should be locked in. Although they were saying, we're getting some feedback that maybe not all the money we thought was gonna be there is gonna be there. And there was some discussion about $150 million that have an earmarks for education in the last budget, that money may not be there. But my understanding is that would be above and beyond what we get. So that's, if that were to disappear, that wouldn't mean, cutting into what we expect, basically.
But even with that, they seem to indicate that it's gonna be a tight year.
Yeah, not the, I think there was a sense last year of euphoria, like, oh, everything's great, and now we've come back down to earth. The other thing that was interesting that they talked about, because I had mentioned one of the challenges from our perspective as a Board of Finance is every year the number of students we send fluctuates as a proportion to what the other towns send. And that puts us in a position where some years we kind of take a hit where we have to contribute more than we might maybe expect. And there was some conversation about that's a frustration every year. And they've talked about, but never really moved forward on the idea of like, should they do some sort of rolling average? Would that save towns money in the long run? Or at least kind of smooth out things? So that was but that would actually require an act of legislation to even make that change. So it's a concern for everybody, but I wouldn't hold your breath on that changing anytime soon, sounds like. Anything else from that meeting, Keith, that you want to share?
No, but they did try to spin it too, that where we might see, like fewer students one year, but then over time, it's gonna come back around, and maybe we have more, but one of the other towns, like Wellington, loses. So that in the long run, I think they were trying to say, it all balances out.
If I understand correctly, the total number of students, and I haven't looked over the last year, keeps going down. So that means that they still need to maintain everything, but their total number is going down, whether it goes like this between towns or not.
So
And that's been
share-
going on for some time.
And then the share per town's gonna go up to meet the difference,
Mhm.
because you got costs that you can't ignore, you gotta kind of keep the buildings up,
Mhm.
and all that, so. Yeah, it's.
Very true. Okay, so that's it for communications. For public comments, anybody have a public comment they would like to share? Going once? Going twice? Okay. Approve minutes of, first we have the regular meeting for Thursday, December 7th. Give me one moment while I call those up. So this is for the regular part of the meeting, which started at 7 o'clock. Can I have a motion and a second to accept the regular meeting minutes for December 7th?
I'll make a motion to accept the meetings for the regular meeting.
All right, is there any discussion on the minutes? Okay, hearing no discussion, I'll call a vote. All those in favor to approve the minutes of Thursday, December 7th, regular meeting, say aye.
I,
Hi, Paul Varga.
Okay, and Tim? Aye, okay. And any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, so that was unanimous. Okay, and then the special meeting minutes, and that was for the filling of the vacancy on this board, which elevated Keith.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes of the special meeting.
I'll second that, Paul.
Tim beat you.
Yeah.
Any discussion or comments on the special meeting minutes?
Just a comment, if it's okay.
Mhm.
Is that unfortunately Keith was not a member of the board during the December 7th regular meeting, so I think he might have had to abstain, but we could always check the town council.
Yeah.
Only because he was not a member during that meeting.
Okay.
Okay, point made.
Yeah.
Any comments on the special meeting minutes? Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
I,
Aye.
Any abstentions? Keith, do you want to abstain?
Okay, I'll say.
Any opposed? Okay, so that passed with one abstention. Okay. Moving on. Just maybe before we fully move on, did the links in the agenda work for everybody?
Yep.
Is that a good format? I figured that's better than bogging down emails with tons of attachments, so.
Yeah, for me, Christina, the only one that didn't work was the regular meeting minutes, and I don't know why. But the rest did. It could be my system too, who knows?
Yeah, because that I just linked to the town website. I think, so, okay, well, just keep me updated if that continues to be an issue. All right, so new business, we have selectmen's update. Catherine?
Good. I'm gonna move up a little bit, so hopefully everybody can hear me. Couple things. School roof construction project. The architecture plan has been reviewed and approved by the appropriate parties, and they included the school roof committee. School roof, committee, the Board of Ed. And everything's been signed off appropriately. The next steps are to get a clerk of the works and then from there, the construction company, if you will, and those will be done through RFPs. Also, the Board of Selectmen's office is working with our financial consultant and bond counsel for the bonding for the project. Do you have any questions about any of that?
I have a question. So with the bonding, when does that like hit our books? Like, because it's kind of like not real yet, right? So when does it actually get like recorded as debt?
As debt?
Yeah.
Once we have actually gone out and acquired bond.
And so when would that happen?
If I understand correctly, that's gonna be sometime April, May. In all
Okay,
likelihood.
so it'll get recorded, it'll start to be recorded in this fiscal year.
Correct.
Okay.
We have one $23,000 payment that was made to the architecture firm that had to be done by the end of by December 31st. So we made that payment. That's half of what that group will be paid. There'll be another 23,000 when they finish the next piece, which should be soon. Okay. Anything else about that project?
Not for
No,
me.
they did a nice job. I was sat in on the review. It was a nice job. Okay, the audit. I just wanted to point out that when an audit goes over into January, we are already in budget season, so everybody's up to here trying to get everything together for the budget. And that includes people trying to get information into us and what the treasurer has to do as well, treasurer and the board of selectmen's office. So that has had an impact on us. And what I would like to point out also is that we have our capital improvement planning meeting, and I think that's next week. Bear with me because it's been a blur with all these storms lately. One of the things that we would have wanted to have, and we do not have until the audit is completed, is for this board to understand how much money could be available to move over into capital non-recurring, which is where quite a bit of our capital improvement projects are paid for from. So we don't know what that number is going to be. So when we go into our capital improvement planning meeting, we won't know that. And you won't know it until the audit is done and you have that number and your board has met to figure out if or whatever amount you want to move into capital non-recurring. And also what money could be in additional, say, in the general fund.
Mhm.
So it has a kind of a domino effect. And like I said, this is the busiest time, actually, this is the busiest time of year for our staff because of the budget work. And it's really a high stress period for everybody here. Okay. My third topic is the impact of storms. We're about to get hit with another one and then another one. So we've had a number of washouts on roads and whatever. So we anticipate there's going to be money supplied, even more money supplied to the repair of the roads. And that's all I have, unless you have questions of me. I only took the things that I felt were pertinent to this board. But there has been a lot going on.
Yeah. The only other thing I had a question about is the special town meeting to fill the alternate vacancy. Do we have a sense of when that'll get scheduled?
Yes. So we are having another board of selectmen meeting on Monday. And that's on Tuesday, and that's on our agenda. I'm assuming that your request to have that meeting, I think it was you that made the request. That still holds, so you don't need to make another one.
Okay, good.
And it's unfortunate that we had to change it, but it was because at that day, 72% of the town was without power,
Right.
and it was a Zoom meeting.
Yeah, I guess Zoom doesn't work when nobody has power.
Yeah,
And Catherine, there is another vacancy.
I cannot hear you.
There is another vacancy that should not impact our, having a special meeting or anything. Tom Hastings was a member of the ZBA. He got elected to the planning and zoning. So I've got to have him submit a letter of resignation to Sherry. But we will move up. We have an alternate, Deb Macaron.
Okay,
And she's agreeable to stepping up once he submits his letter and it's accepted. We'll have a meeting.
thank you for knowing how to do it, which is if you're going to submit a resignation, you submit it to the town clerk. Some people don't remember that. So thank you.
I didn't realize, so you're on another board, you're staying on the ZBA and doing this at the same time?
Yeah, because
Okay.
I don't see if we have.
There's no con.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, no, I'm not asking in terms of
Well, no,
conflict.
but
I'm
that's a
asking
fair
in terms of
question.
your
That's a fair
time.
question. Well, unfortunately for the town, there's not a lot of business going on.
Okay,
I say unfortunately for the town because that's lack of people building.
And in general, ZBA meetings are relatively infrequent compared to
Yes.
some of the other meetings.
Yeah.
okay, well, if you're good with it, God bless you. Okay, any other questions for Catherine before we return to our other business? Okay. The next item is review and discussion of the most recent general fund expenditures report. I was hoping that Sherry Susie would be in this meeting to answer questions, so, if someone wants to ask a question, we can try to answer it, but, sometimes if there are questions, it's really more for Sherry. But just to be aware, so this is from July 1 through December 13th. What has been recorded thus far. I don't know if there are any questions.
Christina, it's Paul. I have one question, but it really was for Sherry, so I don't know.
I can take down the question and send it to her and then maybe perhaps get
Okay.
an answer.
So it appears that for salary or wages line, for selectmen, public works, et cetera, like I would say 85 to 90% of them show an overage. And I realize that they show the encumbrance, but I'm just wondering why some of those are substantial overages, 2,000, 3,600. I'm just wondering if there was a change somewhere, and so the budget was inaccurate, or if it's just the way that the program shows the encumbrances based on a certain calendar. Because
Looks like Catherine might have an
I
answer.
suspect,
okay,
I suspect that is because the increase for this fiscal year to salaries
yeah,
was done after the budget was approved. Remember, we couldn't show the increase at that point in time because we hadn't negotiated with the union. So this always happens. If I get it right, and I will double check. Okay, but the union contract was signed
right,
in
not too long ago.
November. I think it was
Yeah.
signed in November. And so the pay was retroactive back to July, the increase was retroactive back to July 1st.
So can I just ask a silly question? And I know you weren't the first selectman, but there was no plan for a possible increase in the budget then?
A plan for what?
For the possibility of an increase in that
Um,
line item, those line items? I mean, a
Yes, we
couple
do
of them
plan for it. We do plan for it. Typically, it's put into contingency.
okay,
However, remember, we negotiate for that increase. And so we're certainly not going to put an anticipated amount, an anticipated increase into the previous, the plan that was
right.
already.
So it's basically covered, or should be covered, hopefully, in contingency, which I think looking at it is probably accurate. Or pretty close anyway. Okay, that may have answered my question. Thank you, Catherine.
And I'll double check tomorrow, Paul. I'll take a look at what's in contingency.
Now, and that contract, is that a 3-year contract?
It was a union contract.
Mhm.
And in general, as goes the union, so goes the other employees.
Mhm.
And the union increase, I believe, was 2.5%.
Right, but
I can't remember. I think it was 3.
is it for 3 years?
It is,
Or was it 1
approve-
year?
We did approve, we haven't approved a 3-year contract in a number of years. We've been doing 1-year contracts. We approved a 3-year contract.
Oh, okay, so that was so then this won't be an issue the next budget because we'll have.
I would expect
Yeah.
that.
Okay. Okay, any other questions on the general fund expenditures
Yes.
report? Go ahead.
Page 10. Under zoning board of appeals department. We had a variance hearing, we had a public hearing on a variance on July 12th. And I think that the notices, the legal notices, post the meeting would have probably gone out maybe right before July 1st. But after, we decided to give the variance to approve it, there would have been a public notice to go out advising the public that we had approved this because, you know, if anybody wanted to appeal, and then there'd be certain correspondence and stuff like that. I'm not showing anything, you know, across the board, it looks like we didn't spend anything.
It looks like you didn't spend anything.
Yeah, it's like zero. So I don't. know
I wonder if,
if this game,
bear with me, I wonder if, that has anything to do with audit adjustments that are done. I'm not sure, where it was
Yeah.
applied. So if you can either send me an email or whatever, so that actually where you would send it, it would be to Sherry
okay,
and ask her why that number's not reflected in your expense.
okay. Yeah, because the other thing too, is about maybe it got shoved in with planning and zoning. I could say.
Could be.
Well, I mean, you know, it's kind of.
That, they sound the same.
Yeah. But anyway, that was the thing that.
Yeah, I would send an email to Sherry. Please, feel free to put first selection at Ashford Town Hall,
Okay.
.org on copy,
Mhm.
and I'll make sure if it gets followed up on, then I'll get the answer too.
And then along those same lines, since we're talking about the audit,
Yes.
I have not received anything about my budget.
In other words, you have not received something requesting that you provide your budget?
Because it's always come to me through, email. I usually get it sent to my work email because, I mean, that's where it's been historically coming. But, you know, certainly Sherry and Karen and Christine, they know how to get a hold of me. but
Yeah,
I
Chris
haven't
has nothing to do with it.
No, but,
This-
but if people in town hall say, how do we get a hold of this Lipker guy?
Yeah,
There's plenty of people that know how to do that, but I've not seen anything.
all right, so I'm gonna give you this, I'm gonna have you write your email address on it.
Okay. Because I know it's. due,
I'll
but-
follow up on that too.
Okay,
Put it there. Notable.
okay. There's nothing wrong with that.
No,
I'm gonna rewrite from. And I'm gonna put down my,
what I did this year is instructed Sherry to, when she sent out the requests for people to submit their budgets and their annual report, that she put me on copy for every one of them. And everybody's supposed to put me on copy for their responses so that I can actually track myself.
but that's my work email, and I checked my spam folder and all that, and nothing was there.
The only thing I can think of is, for example, I believe that for planning and zoning, the request is not sent to the chair. For the budget request is sent to, it may be sent to the office instead. So maybe they had yours go to the same place, so I'll check.
Okay, because when, you know, I stopped in there the other day when I saw you in town hall, saw Katie, and
Okay,
nobody brought anything up to me, so,
all right.
anyway, okay.
Okay, any other questions on the general fund expenditures report before we move on? Okay, the next item is the annual report update, including the status. Oh, I think I have the wrong, oh, yeah, okay, 22-23 is the next. So the annual report that we need to finalize is, for July 1st, 2021 through June 30th, 2022. And the final version, you guys should have received yesterday. There was two versions. The second version had a few changes from Chris Abacoff. They were really minor. So if you looked at the first version, don't be like, oh my God, I need to look at it. It's fine. Paul, I will say the second version, when I attempted to send it to you twice, I got a bounce back from your email.
Really?
Yeah.
I wonder why that is.
Yeah, I don't know. The only thing I could think of is maybe because the file was big. Do you have any issues with big
No,
files?
no, I got the first version, so,
Okay, well, the
That's
second
kinda
version was
weird.
very close.
yeah, that's really weird, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I looked at the first version, it looked great. So,
Okay, very good.
Question,
Yeah.
on the second version, did it indicate, I didn't open it, didn't have the time, but I would just didn't know if this said that where the revisions were.
No, I didn't take the time to do that. I can tell you, I do have them. So there were some adjustments under Office of Selectmen, just to, be more precise of what the makeup was prior to the 2021 election and then post 2020 election.
Mhm.
And then we also added that they'd meet, on the second and fourth Tuesdays. Then there was a revision to the,
It says second and fourth Tuesdays?
yes, that's what's written here, second and fourth Tuesdays.
Could be
It should
Monday.
say Mondays.
Oh, okay.
Interesting.
Well, we'll make that adjustment. Let's see here.
Because the only, well, after you give the other one, I just, if we could just know what pages, because I wouldn't be printing out 47 more. I could just go print out the selected pages.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so it's page 3 had changes,
Okay,
and then page 10. We just changed revenue collector to tax collector. And page 20 had a letter that was uppercase that needed to be lowercase. And then page 28, we just added Ashford to volunteer fire department. So very minor stuff. With that, can I get a motion and a second to accept the July 1, 2021 through June 30th, 2022 Town of Ashford annual report
would that be with revision?
with revisions as noted in this meeting? Yes.
So, yes, I'll make the motion. And
Okay.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And any abstentions? Okay. Also, I should mention and thank Jesse Burnham, who's no longer on the board, for his work in putting this together, and then also the support of Amanda Robinson, who we do pay a pretty nominal fee to help edit it and put it together. So they were also very instrumental in getting this done. So thank you to them, and thank goodness it's done. And now on to the following years. So I did just want to note, so for the status of the 22-23 Board of Finance annual report, because ours is due, just like all the other departments, I did go through the minutes for that fiscal year to come up with our highlights. If anybody wants to see that, I'd be happy to share it, but it's pretty, it's pretty straightforward. But just want to say that we're doing our part to get our annual report in. Okay, and we already talked about the audit for fiscal year 22-23. Hopefully we're in the home stretch, and we'll have that for our next meeting. Review Board of Finance budget for fiscal year 24-25. So this is really just an FYI, and our budget is not terribly complicated or robust. Basically, our only expense, or our big expense, is the audit fees, so the payment to the outside auditing firm. And then,
Could I ask a question about that?
yes.
Do you have a multi-year contract, or was it just this year? Or is this the end of a contract?
I looked that up, I was able to find that in emails, and so we had initially, I think we had a 3-year deal, and then we did a year.
Extension?
So we are not under obligation beyond this audit with the current auditing firm. We did in 23-24 share the cost of the auditors. So 24,776 was allocated to the, I wrote to the town, I guess to the Board of Finance. And then the Board of Ed picked up $16,773. So there is a cost sharing there. So I wouldn't expect our budget to change dramatically. I'm gonna submit it, basically consistent with what we had the previous fiscal year. We don't really have any other expenses beyond that auditing piece. And then our recording secretary, Valerie, does get paid $80 per meeting. So
If you do decide to bring in another auditor, or to do an RFP for auditors, your number will change. The only reason I mention it is because if you're going to do that RFP, you would have to start that soon,
right.
because you're gonna want an auditor in place in May.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Understood. So any questions or comments on that budget? And again, we want to make sure we get this into Sherry tomorrow so that we follow the rules that we are setting for everybody else. So no questions or comments? Okay. And then I wrote down status on budget submittals and annual reports from the town departments, but doesn't look like Sherry's joined. Catherine, do you have a sense of how people are doing?
Couldn't quite hear.
Do you have a sense of how the departments are doing, getting their budgets together?
Some of them have already submitted theirs, but I expect to have a big rush tomorrow.
Mhm.
And anybody that hasn't submitted it by then, I'll be chasing down. So.
Okay, yeah, and the only other thing is I want to coordinate with Sherry and maybe you with those annual reports. I want to try to get those into me as soon as possible so that I can know, because I think what's happened in the past is they kind of end up in an email and nobody pays attention until 6 months later, and then they're going back. I want to stay on top of it. That's a job I can take and follow up.
Well, and I am too, because they were supposed to submit them with their budget, and I've saved whatever everybody submitted their first submission.
Okay, great.
Okay, I've kept them this way, because what'll happen is the board of selectmen will look at what's been submitted and make recommendations and change some things, in all honesty.
Okay, very good. Okay, so review and possible adoption of the updated Board of Finance procedures. So we have a financial management policy and we have the budget policies for fiscal year 24-25. So the financial management policy is a document that is pretty kind of high level. This document, I don't think there's really any need for changes. But it's just good that we all take a look at it and use it as a reference so that we're all on the same page.
Christina, is that the one that has, I worked on these originally, is that the one that says how much you're going to keep in the undesignated fund? What percentage?
I think it does
Oh,
mention
here it
that.
is, 10 to 15%.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah, we just heard that they're now looking at maybe 16% being a target.
Is
We
that
just
coming
heard
from the
that from
state
another
or-
place in the state. Yeah, so I don't know if our auditors have said anything about that.
okay. Yeah, I haven't heard anything from them about it, but. So I don't actually think, I mean, I guess we can,
Well, one of them has dates.
yeah,
Oh,
the
you're
one
right.
that has dates, we
Second.
need to definitely approve. Since it's evolved. But I don't think we need to make a motion and approve this.
I have a question. I don't know if it's aside, but, we have the unexpended education. I want to call it a fund. A
Yeah.
lot of people like to call it the 1% fund.
Yeah.
Okay. So, we will have monies coming back from the school boiler. I think it is. And what happened was the, half of the monies that were supposed to be, half of the monies came from the school in that fund, and half of the monies, were to be from the town. So now we know that we didn't expend all of that, and some monies will be coming back. Your board will need to consider, do you want to put the monies that came back, do you want to split it and put them back where they originally came from? Or do you want to do something different? That's all.
Yeah. And we have, that's a separate policy, because we went through a whole thing of, do we change it from 1% to 2%? And we just changed it for 2% for 1 year. It's, and
Oh, you
so-
changed it for 2% for what, that 1
Yes.
year?
The 1 year,
So that they
because of the COVID year, they had a lot of
To
excess
accrue.
money.
Yeah.
So that's a separate policy from this stuff.
Okay.
So anyway, I don't think we need a motion for this document. This is just for reference and it hasn't changed.
Is this something new or has this been in existence?
I cannot hear you.
Is this new or has this been in existence previously?
I wrote that many years ago.
no, why-
But each year you were to review it, and each year you should probably take a motion so that people know that you are sticking with the same one. Or what, this is the one you're going to use. And ultimately it will end up out on the town website. It'll end up in your budget package for people. So that's just formalizing the fact that you're going to keep the current one in whatever way, or at least make a statement in your minutes that says that.
Okay, so can I get a motion to approve the town of Ashford financial management policy
As written.
as written?
So moved.
Okay, Tim made the motion.
I'll make a
Paul, can
second
you
then.
second it? Thank you.
Yep, second.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
I,
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, that passed unanimously. Okay, and then the next document is the budget policies for fiscal year 24-25, and so this does have changes. So all I did was take our budget calendar and plug the dates in here. And I don't think there's anything, there's nothing crazy in here. It's pretty straightforward.
I just have a question though.
Yeah.
On page 2, number 8, the annual town budget, it says, you guys probably don't have to, I don't have to read it, but it says, the budget is not adopted at referendum by July 1st. The last budget adopted by referendum shall remain in effect for new fiscal year until a new budget is approved at referendum.
Mhm.
Is there, and that's fine, but is there any date is there a date? Should there be a date for follow-up, or I mean, just so that somebody.
I can
keep
tell
the
you
feet
how,
to the
I
fire.
can tell you how this has worked. And the reason that that's in there is that if you don't pass a budget in time for the next fiscal year to start, you need to stick with the budget that you've got.
Mhm.
And you will not have a new budget until you can get a budget passed at referendum. And 1 year we had 3 referendums.
Yeah, I'm not,
But you can't, so what will happen is by having the old budget in place, you are still able to expend money.
Mhm.
But the sooner you can get a budget passed, the better off you're gonna be, because we only float approximately, I'm gonna call it 3 months of money. Then you're gonna start to get into trouble.
I guess what I was trying to say is that maybe there should be a date in there to kind of like put pressure on whoever is an interested party to be working towards getting a budget for referendum.
That is your board, and I don't know that a date is really necessary, because you're charged with getting that budget out there, and we're charged with making sure it gets presented. And the referendum is its own animal, okay? I don't think you can really lock it down to a date. It also depends on how much we have in our coffers, because at some point you really get into trouble.
There may also be state, I feel like there might be a state
The state,
regulation about how far you can go before they
Yeah.
come in and say, you need to
yeah,
pass
because at that
something.
point, you're starting to, in a sense, bankrupt your town.
Right,
Yeah, okay, well, see, that would be the news hanging over everybody to get it
And,
done.
and believe me, when a budget fails, it comes back to this board
Yes,
to do whatever you need to do. And then we try to move it forward in referendum.
so can I get a motion and a second to approve the Ashford Board of Finance budget policies for fiscal year 24-25?
So moved.
Tim?
I'll second it.
Tim? Okay, any additional discussion on it? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, passed unanimous. Okay. Agenda items for the next meeting is hopefully, the audit presentation. That'll be the number one item.
And your audit firm knows that they need to provide you with hard copies, adequate hard copies for all of you and some others before they do their presentation, at least a couple days before. So you have the opportunity to read them and be able to be prepared with questions.
I know they've done that in the past, so.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at our budget calendar real quick. So our next, really key date is Thursday, February 22nd is when the Ashford school budget will be presented to the Board of Finance. So we've got a few weeks before that. And then it'll be quick succession of budget stuff from February 22nd on. So I am hopeful. We do have on the calendar a meeting for next week. If possible, hopefully we won't have that meeting and we'll do it on January 25th, unless the audit piece really needs to be, presented before the 25th. But we'll see next week how things are coming together with the audit and what kind of pressure that's putting on other departments and whatnot. So I think that's it for agenda items for the next meeting. Remarks for the good of the board. I just appreciate everybody's time in coming out tonight and starting up a new budget cycle. And I think we're in the right direction. And once we can get that audit done, then we can really start moving ahead. So again, I appreciate everybody's time and effort. And with that, I will ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Paul, can you be the second?
Sure. I
Thank
can't
you.
speak fast. There's gotta be a time delay. I'm too far away.
It must be. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And any opposed? No, thank you very much. The meeting is adjourned. Have a good night, everybody.
Good night.
Thank you, Valerie.
Bye.
Christina, it's nice to have you at the helm.